As product managers, we love to do surveys, right? So who had a beer today? Hands up. Cool. Who's hoping that this talk will end up soon so they can get a beer? Okay, cool. Perfect. Today I'm going to talk to you about a prioritization, but from a different perspective, because all the products are all the moments, the decisions, the technologies, the people we interact with, and at the same time, we don't live in a perfect world, right? We love the image of the world, it's beautiful, it looks really, really nice, but in the end, the world is beautiful chaos. It's noisy, it's crowded, and it's changing so fast. And then we as a product managers, we're supposed to figure out, is there supposed to be a product somewhere here, right? How do we find a product market fit? Or how do we grow our existing product further on? And of course, the questions we face, some of them have been already raised, like, should we build this feature then? Or should we fix those bugs that have been in our backlog for so long? And, or should we just delete the whole thing and start over? And eventually we come down to the biggest question of all, and that's, why do we even do this? Why do we even build this product? Why are we prioritizing this over that? What's our strategy? What's our plan? We love the frameworks, the tools, some of them again mentioned, all the cost-benefit analysis, the Kano methods, and even those highest paid person in the room that calls the shots, or I think someone mentioned in the survey that, customer just gives us some more money if we can do a little extra work for them. And we love them and we cherish them. But the problem is, as soon as we fill them with the wrong information, those frameworks are great, but they will be completely useless. Since we prioritize every day and night as product managers, those of you who are not, you're definitely prioritizing as well, because you have boyfriends, girlfriends at home, kids, and your whole life. Are you going to have a beer or a vodka shot? So everybody has to prioritize at some point. But I want to ask you to put all your battles, all your decisions, all your concerns and anxiety aside for a moment and start thinking what really matters. What matters is that we build products for people, and why are they buying them from us? Because the way how we articulate our vision matches the way how people understand their vision of the world, as well as their values. At GoodData, that's the only reference that I'm going to use today, we believe that software companies, ISVs, shouldn't be building their own analytics stack. That's why we build it for them, and that's our story for them. And that's the customers like Zendesk and so on who come back to us and they go after our vision because they share the way how we see the future of the world. So think about it. What do you believe? When you're building a product, what do you believe? And is that the same thing that your customers share with you? That your customers share with you. Because then you start to think about, okay, do I understand my world? Do I understand the chaos of my world in the same way as my customers and my target audience? Who are the people that are actually my target audience? What do they do? Who do they want to become? What do they believe? Do they already use something? Is there a competitor? Some alternative? Why should they care? The best question that I've seen so far when it comes to product market fit, when it comes to figuring out if your idea or your existing product meets a specific target audience is, what would they do and how would they feel if they didn't have your product? It's a super powerful question if you can ask that your existing customers. And if you put all these questions in play, then you can start having the conversation, okay, what's our vision, what's our strategy? But you don't see any of that in here. Those are just questions to help you understand who is your target market, what's your product, and why people should care about what you're building. I want to emphasize one most important thing, and that's the first thing where I want to say, you gotta, as a product people, you gotta exercise your right to talk to customers and to prospects. If you don't do that, and believe me, I've been there, I haven't had the conversations with our customers, and it made me completely anxious about every decision that I was supposed to make. I had to use Moscow methods, do deep dive into technology stack, deep dive into analyze the whole situation, but eventually, without enough information, enough understanding of who is my target audience, I was complete failure because my decisions were essentially just, maybe it's gonna work. How you can do that? you got to figure out your path to access those people. Whether it's your customers, your partners, or prospects. I recently heard a funny story from one of our colleagues that, but you cannot talk to our prospects. And I was like, hang on, why? We just lost them. Why can't I just pick up a phone call and just call them and see what they were evaluating, ask them those questions? They're like, well, I don't know, and they made up some weird reason why not. But eventually the whole point is you got to figure out what's your target audience, and you cannot do that without speaking with them. The most powerful tools that I've been using so far are the win loss and churn reviews. Why are the customers that you have, your loyal customers, why are they leaving? There are things like they went bankrupt, obviously they are unable to pay their dues, but there are more important things like maybe there's some missing capability in your product. Maybe they went because some competitor offered them price, or maybe your product was not as important for them as some other feature or some other capability they have. The other thing is utilize your user designers. If you don't have them, set up a simple way to observe people. Figure out how they're using. Another very powerful question, don't ask people or don't tell people what the product is. Try to figure out what the product is part of. As soon as you sit down with your customer support, your customer success teams, you're going to figure out many more stories about what makes people successful, what makes people fail with your product. And eventually, that's sometimes being completely missed, start looking outside your network, because one thing is speaking with your existing customers or with the customers that have left you, but when you start talking to strangers, stop listening to your parents' advices, when you start talking to strangers, you can actually figure out many more context, much broader context of what your product does for people or what it could be doing for people that are not buying from you. The one thing to remember, I don't have a summary, so it's for each slide, stop living in a bubble of chit-chat and hearsay. Stop asking or listening to people what they are saying about customers, or someone says about something that a customer said sometime. No, you gotta figure out, you gotta hear them on your own. Yesterday I had a conversation with one of our new customers that we just signed up recently. They went successful. And as part of our research, I started asking him a couple of questions. It was completely overwhelming, the type of information that I was able to get. I started to understand how they are thinking about our product, how they are thinking about their problems, how they're talking about them, because all of a sudden, those information won't help you only to prioritize what matters. Those types of information will also help you prioritize how are you supposed to describe your product, how are you supposed to market it to the whole wild world. There are obviously other angles that we have to think about. All the macroeconomic events, Trump, China, all these things, major market trends, major industry trends, some things that experts, analysts say, obviously they're paid for it, so we know we have to take it with a grain of salt, but all those things like, what's your customer strategy? When you start speaking with your customer success, someone that's whole purpose, their whole purpose is in your company is to make sure that the customer renews or that they buy again. Start speaking with them and get in touch with the customer to figure out what's their strategy. Do they have an alternative? Do they have a plan to replace you? Because all of a sudden you can uncover so many insights that will help you, again, prioritize and figure out, in that whole world of chaos, how are you gonna slice and dice and what you're gonna focus on, what you're gonna leave out. So don't forget, there are things which are happening outside of your market, outside of your bubble. Don't forget to tap into them and start thinking more broadly, more holistically. Now, we collect all this information, all this intel. Sometimes it's garbage, sometimes not. But then the problem is, we start discovering insights. We start thinking, okay, well, that's cool. This guy, they would love this new modeling capability, or they would love this new feature and button here and there, and so on and so forth. The biggest problem is, you want to make sure that the insights that are being discovered or derived from your research are actually being accepted widely. So, as Tomáš mentioned, in terms of managing stakeholders, a great opportunity is just get your 5 to 10 most trusted peers across the organization. The more diverse the group is, the better, because they will be thinking from their point of view, and then start examining the content, the intel that you've covered, whether it's from your customers or from other things that are happening in the market. Remember, again, the product is being sold because people find something valuable about it. People are buying it because they see that it's helping them solve some very painful problem for them. And the value that you'll be selling will be impacting the value that you will be building, you'll be focusing on, you'll be prioritizing. Go and find the value. Find it in a group of peers, because that's the fastest way how you can get alignment across the whole organization. And when it comes to product prioritization, obviously you can start thinking about, if my customers value this, maybe we should actually spend more money there. Or maybe we have discovered that the customers value something else that we didn't think of, and we need to start including that. Those become our strategic themes. Those become those high-level thoughts, high-level concepts of what we believe that the product should be. Should be very easy to use, should be completely self-service, or should it be something more robust or more extensible, and those kind of buzzwords. Now, when you are settled on those 2, 3, 5, as few as possible, I recommend strategic themes, they will give you the information, okay, where do we invest over everything else? Sometimes you have to go back and say, okay, one of the values that our customers cherish is that the product is bug-free, or that a product works in the most critical use cases. And that's okay as well. Sometimes you have to deal with a shitload of debt, technology debt, and you have to prioritize it as one of your strategies. Most of the times, you don't have to go. And then, of course, that becomes that gives you the idea of what should you put on your roadmap, what should you be delivering on. And by delivering on, I don't mean only that we will build some code or change some product capability. What I mean by what we will be delivering is also doing some much more thorough research on some capability, some function that you are thinking, or you have a hypothesis that if we deliver it, people will pull your arms out. Right? So again, the more clarity you bring, that's going to help you with better alignment across the organization. And the more you focus, or the more you link the customer values with product priority, that's going to help you avoid all the distractions that are happening elsewhere. The biggest problem is that after you do all of this research, which could take even months, then things start changing. Someone just puts up water in a box. Right? And because the world is changing momentarily, my only recommendation is figure out what's your cadence, stick to it. Whether it's about how often you share the stories about your customers with your teams, those chit chats that are happening by the coffee table or in the kitchen. Make sure that you engage frequently with customers, with prospects, with strangers. Figure out what's your review, what's your insights discovery. Is it going to be happening monthly or weekly, or depending on the volume of data that you are collecting? And then do changes to your strategy on a quarterly basis, because again, the world is changing. Don't forget that whatever type of research, whatever type of inquiry you're doing, you always have to have questions to ask. And believe me that if you start thinking about it this thoroughly, you will have some doubts. You will be thinking, okay, maybe this isn't the right way how we should be building the product. So just go out and ask the questions. Always prioritize learning. Thank you.